Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Xaereth Prevails, a Grand Arena story. First things first, I want to give a huge shout out to all of my patrons. You guys are awesome. Really appreciate all of the support. Today is an episode of ups and downs for sure. I am facing a dude whose name I can't even fathom how to pronounce, so kudos to my opponent already besting me in the name mockery contest. Well done. So going into this match, I was 10-0, hoping that I could win my next couple matches and go the perfect 12-0. However, I do have something I wanted to tell you guys about, which I did not mention in my last episode very much. I had just tried the Cam mission, the Kieti Mundi mission in the territory battle, so I'd swapped all my mods off of some of my best characters, and then I got distracted, absentmindedly hit the join button for Grand Arena, and I instantly stood up and I got all red in the face, even though no one was actually around me. It was that embarrassing, though. So Darth Revan, Bastila Shan, Commander Luke, B1, and General Kenobi all do not have mods at all for this entire week, which is awful, and it's my fault, not trying to blame anyone else. I do wish that I had been able to have a redo or a retry or something, but that I've been operating under that. So I got a win last episode regardless of that. But if you remember my Bastila Shan team, the team with Emperor Palpatine and Bastila didn't have any mods. I knew about that. I was just trying something stupid and I failed, so I'll own that. However, I just don't have mods on 5 key characters for 5 different key teams, which is an enormous handicap. So just keep that in mind as we progress through this episode, and let's move forward.
You know, sometimes I amaze even myself.
That doesn't sound too hard.
Now, looking at the stats for this match, my opponent has a really strong defense. They also have a pretty strong offense. That they weren't as efficient in a lot of their matches as I have been traditionally, though they do go very strong on defense. I knew that by scouting their Grand Arena history. Looking at their Zetas, I have the same amount of Zetas. Their gear is killer, though. Gear 12, they have 101 to my 68, and then they also have more Gear 13 than me. Really not great. Their average speed is crazy faster than mine, and if you look at their mods, it's almost double. It's approaching double all of my good mods. The only slight advantage that I have is I have a little bit higher end gear, or rather tier 7 relics, and that's it, and it wasn't that big of a difference, so really not that great. Looking at the deployment, I was actually pleasantly surprised. My opponent did put a skeleton Darth Revan team in, and then a General Grievous squad with BB-8, which was ideal for me because my Bastila Shan team was not going to be able to take on a Wat Tambor squad. Now, all of these squads are fairly strong, and it's really hard to beat all of them. I knew that my opponent had some really strong teams at the back as well. Just after studying the Grand Arena history, they didn't have any teams that I could very easily use troopers on, for instance. So, anyways, that I did have a plan. I took bounty hunters for offense for the first time in a while, and this is one of the most fun battles that I've had, actually. It made me very nervous walking into it, but you see I'm taking Bossk, and I'm going up against what I'm calling a skeleton Darth Revan squad, and that just means that there's no Bastila Shan Fallen or Darth Malak here to help the squad. It's just pure Sith Empire, and they're all really good characters, and it's a great team anyways, but it does open the door for a really interesting interaction here between bounty hunters under the Bossk lead and the Sith Empire under Darth Revan lead. Now, it's not necessarily foolproof. There are things that can go wrong. However, if you look at all of the different stacks of the debuffs that Darth Revan hands out to his own team, that actually helps trigger the Bossk lead, which means that every single stack that's applied to a character gives me 5% health and 5% protection on every character for every stack applied. And that means that whenever someone does a special on this team, it hands those stacks to everyone else and therefore heals my entire team almost entirely. Now, they're still doing a ton of damage, but if you notice, Embo and Dengar are not even gear 13. They're gear 12, and they're decently modded. Everyone's decently modded. And Bossk plus the Fets are both, or all three, Relic 4. So it's a relatively well-modded squad, but usually you're not going to expect Darth Revan to lose to Bossk at all. And I've been wanting to try this counter for a long time, so it was exciting to try this, and I finally got the chance, and you can see it wasn't necessarily very close at all. And you see I was on airplane mode because I wasn't sure about this counter for sure, but 60 banners is a great way to start off the match, especially using bounty hunters against a Darth Revan lead.
You know, sometimes I amaze even myself.
All right, so next up, we got that win. We needed to follow it up with another strong win. I did have Night Sisters available to counter this Grievous squad with BB-8. And so, of course, I jumped into it. Now, remember, this Grievous is only Relic 5. That's probably the only weakness I found in my opponent's roster at all. And these guys are all incredibly fast, really well modded. As I pointed out, they have amazing mods, just crazy, and they applied them very well throughout their roster. There was almost no time that I actually had an advantage in mods. The only advantage I really had was against this General Grievous squad with, he only had Relic 5 for whatever reason. So, you know, a little less scary, still pretty scary for my paper-thin Night Sisters. Now, I've explained this counter a couple times. I've done it a couple times in the recent past, but I can explain a little bit more here. What we're doing is we're just trying to beat this Grievous squad through attrition, and you see that BB-8 already got Illuminated Destiny, really fast squad. We missed a little bit of time here because I fat-fingered my record, but I noticed it, so I lost a few seconds trying to turn on my recorder in the middle of the battle. So that's how dedicated I am to providing cutting-edge footage to you guys. This is a pretty scary squad. Everyone is so fast that BB-8 already has Illuminated Destiny off. I haven't actually had that happen to me in this counter before. So you can see General Grievous is going to be killing all of my team quite a bit. He ramps up damage throughout the match by adding to his max health pool, but every time my characters die, anyone dies for that matter, old Daka gains 10% to her max health, and so it makes her very difficult to kill, especially because Grievous kills my Night Sisters at such a fast, crazy rate that I end up gaining more health pool from Daka than he gains in total health pool, and you know his health pool directly contributes to his damage. However, you see, I killed a couple droids in a row there, and he got AoEs off and killed all of my Night Sisters except for Daka a couple times. So this is a pretty scary matchup, frankly. It can go wrong pretty quick. If he does one of his specials to stun Daka at the wrong time and then focuses on her, you can lose. So there is an element of RNG. However, I haven't lost this match before. Unfortunately, Talzin didn't end up reviving at the end. She didn't help assisting, and I couldn't get her revived. So that was unfortunate. Only 53 banners, but we did get through this front zone with a pretty decent average, and we didn't use any really vital teams. Now in the back, we have a pretty standard Kylo Ren unmasked, and then we also had a really strong Emperor Palpatine with Bastila in it and Malak. It's pretty gross. So now I'm showing you guys my speeds, or rather my opponent's Night Sister speeds. If you add plus 30 to those, and Asajj you add 105 actually, they end up being 344 speed base, and that is super fast, and it it closes the door on almost every person being able to use Imperial troopers as a counter. However, I've checked right before the match to make sure. My Stark is 325 speed plus the Veer's lead. That means he is 345 speed, which is one more than the Night Sisters. So really crazy. And you can see I'm putting it on airplane mode. I've done that quite a few times this match, in fact. So Stark goes first by 1 speed, and he gives AoE, or he gives his buffs to everyone. Death Trooper throws his grenade, and now we're just trying to focus down Night Sister Spirit. We're trying to get 2 kills, of course, and so we barely kill Spirit, and then Daka goes, stuns Range Trooper. That's not great, but we can get another couple kills, and so Spirit's gone, and I decide here that I just want to end Talzin. I didn't want to try putting the death mark onto old Daka or onto Asajj. And maybe that was a mistake. I'm not sure, but as long as I could get Terminate off onto old Doc or onto Talzin, Talzin can't be revived now. So if I need to 2-shot this squad, I am able to do it without actually having to kill Talzin again. She won't be a factor anymore. So now we're just trying to kill the rest of the Night Sisters. I've never actually had this interaction before where I actually have a protracted battle with Night Sisters. It's always one-sided for me. I either kill all the Night Sisters and they barely touch me, or I just they wipe me out, or I wipe them out. It's never close. So anyways, we did get Deathmark onto old Daka, which is great. So now she's not coming back regardless of what happens. And now we just have to finish these characters off, but we don't have Veers left. We don't, their characters, ironically, the ones that I've left alive are the ones who are super, super fast. And so you see I finished Zombie off there because I wanted to gain turn meter for the rest of my team. And honestly, my troopers are not that fast other than Stark. I'm using turn meter shenanigans, so they're taking a ton of turns. Night Sister Zombie is ramping up her speed. It's really just crazy, but I'm having another protracted battle here, and it's very strange. I've never had this happen with troopers ever, and I did get Deathmark onto Asajj. That was great, and then I didn't have an AoE to finish her off. I didn't have anything, and eventually, you see, I'm turning off my airplane mode because I want to keep this. Even though Asajj is still there and she's the leader, and I'm loading turn meter, this was good enough. They don't have their shenanigans anymore with revive at all, other than Zombie reviving a couple things. So that was great, and now, I mean, not great. I didn't want to miss those 20 banners, but I mean, I was actually in a bind. I don't want to show you guys all of my thought process on all the different matches that I was going into, because frankly, it would have taken a very long time. I had to plot it all out. I wrote it out. I very rarely do that, but these teams were hard enough, and I didn't have enough offense available to properly just one-shot everything, or at least not convincingly. So I was happy enough with that match. Now, I took a risk here. This is a really tricky match. This Nute team with Nest and a Relict Droideka is really tricky to take on. It would have been fine if I had Watt, but I don't have Watt, and my first order here are they're frankly pretty vulnerable. It's a tricky squad because Droideka, if he targets anyone and he gets enough turns, then he can probably just one-shot them, except if Kylo Ren is the one who he's targeting, who is Relic 7. So thankfully I did get my taunt up just in time for that. And really what we're trying to do, we're trying to just keep Nest contained. There's no way for them to dispel Nest's stun, so if we can get her stunned for 2 turns from Kylo Ren, then she'll just hang out there indefinitely. Now, eventually, I did manage to dispel Droideka. We need to take Droideka out as fast as we can. There are a lot of high-priority targets here, and my opponent did a good job. I mean, the last one I wanted to hit and kill was Sunfac. He's not interesting to me. He's not doing anything very good for their team, but my opponent did force me to kill him first, so that was a great move on their their end. And now I finally managed to one-shot Dooku, or maybe he took a few shots, but I did kill him, and I realized I don't have max banners here. I needed to heal as much as I could, but there's just not much you can do when it's only Nute and you. So I did what I could, gave First Order Executioner a little bit of health or buffs so he could regenerate some of his buffs, but didn't end up happening as well as I was hoping for. 58 banners though, against a pretty questionable squad there, at least on my end, questionable if I could beat it. And now we just need to try taking out this this Night Sister squad. This was actually a perfect opportunity. There was a feat available here that I needed to win a battle using L3 and Vander Chewbacca in the same fight, and they gave me a couple other options, but those options were frankly not very good. And then I could have taken some other character. I wanted to take a tank, like Stormtrooper Han would have been wonderful, but I took young Han here because I thought maybe I'd be able to also work on the feat to be able to get kills using either young Han or normal Han. I have to finish that by next mission. So these Night Sisters are going to be really tricky though, because I have to kill 2 of them first and Zombie will revive them, and then Zombie will be going so fast I won't be able to hit any of them with a character other than Nest, who can ignore taunt. Now, I am going to speed the battle up a little bit because it goes for a while, and honestly, there's not much to talk about. Asajj is trying to ramp up her damage every time someone dies, and a Spirit can one-shot a bunch of different characters. L3 can't keep her taunt all the time. So we're just trying to feed Prepared onto Vander Chewbacca, and every time one of my characters dies, he can passively revive them. However, that does feed into their dastardly plans of trying to keep Asajj as buffed up as she can. Every time someone dies, she's of course gaining stacks of, or invisible stacks of buffs, trying to make herself stronger, as you may imagine, by gaining buffs because of her unique Zeta. And so we're trying to take Asajj out first. She's the biggest threat. And then, honestly, I thought about this for a little bit and decided it didn't matter. My damage wasn't that good on any of the other characters, and so I couldn't really rely on them to hurt Nest, or rather to hurt Spirit at all, or really do any damage. It's mostly just going to be Nest. And luckily, Nest has a basic that can ignore the Spirit's foresight. So hopefully the goal here now is just kill Asajj, and then eventually Nest will be able to one-shot Spirit. And hopefully I didn't kill too many characters to make Asajj unkillable, because she also does gain max health and protection, I believe, so every time someone dies. So now we're just fighting the clock. You see I only have a minute and a half left, but Nest is strong enough that I did manage to take Spirit out relatively easily. And now I'm hoping that Han can at least get one more kill before this is all over with. But that's I don't know if that happened here or not. I did call Han to assist with Kira. I don't know what order of operations it happened, but 40 banners here, that's the max, and I did get the feat, so that was pretty cool. And now we have 3 teams left, but they're all pretty strong. I have a really strong Padme squad, team with Kylo Ren unmasked with Hux, Zeta in there, and then a really strong Emperor Palpatine team with Relic 6, Bastila, and Malak. So I took my Commander Luke here. I meant to take my Watt here and put weapons tech on Han. Didn't happen, obviously, forgot about that. So I killed Emperor Palpatine first, thinking that, well, he's easy to take out with the one shot, and he's causing passive damage to me every time I take a turn anyways. So he's easy to take out. I wanted to take out Bastila. Now, note, if my Luke was actually had mods and was fast or could do more damage, that things would be a lot better. He's missing a huge amount of critical damage just because of his mods. He's modded for that. And he's missing a ton of speed. And so you see Bastila is almost dead. If he had been able to hit just a tiny bit harder, which with mods he would have been able to, she would be dead right now, easily dead. And instead, she healed herself up. She got the big debuff off, and now watch their turn meter. It's amusing, actually. Every time someone dies, all of these Empire, or rather these Sith characters, their turn meter just jumps up to maximum. And you see Bastila is actually at full health and protection now, or thereabouts. And there's just not much we can do. Every time we dispel any kind of buff or debuff on ourselves, that gives uh, the entire team a huge amount of turn meter. And so they're not killing us super fast. And I'm actually impressed by how resilient Luke was there, but he did eventually die. Han died, and now it's like, can I beat anyone else here? Probably not. May as well play it out though. I can't actually have anything have a worse result than this. So, if I could take out Bastila or Vader, I would consider that a win. And you see, Vader actually committed suicide on himself, or on Chewie there. I was hoping, so C-3PO called an assist by Chewie. I got one big hit with Chewie, and it just wasn't quite enough to kill Bastila as well. So, it's really just, it's like, can I kill her? One more chance. I stuck around for a really long time, actually. I was impressed by how long they lived, but they did eventually die, so that was an unfortunate mess. Now, one of the things that I had considered going into this was trying to get a Nest solo out of Nest, trying to kill this Padme squad, and that probably would have worked. I don't know if that would have been a better situation, but I did have General Skywalker. I needed to use him on someone, and perhaps I probably that was a mistake. I probably should have just tried to solo using Nest and Kira and all those guys. I had Watt available, which I could use, and I just I obviously I didn't do it. So I did use General Skywalker here against this Padme squad, and this is a pretty good Padme squad. And what we're trying to do here is, I'm saving the grenade to dispel a bunch of stacks eventually, and cause some good damage. I'm trying to target General Kenobi as much as I can until I can get a clean hit on Jedi Skywalker. Once I can take Jedi Skywalker out, then basically this will just be a cleanup. But Skywalker is the one who you really just don't want to mess with. If you start killing other characters, then you lose pretty quick, because he just keeps doing a ton of hits, and maybe you don't lose, but he's able to knock all of your protection down at the very least. So I did use the Echo hit there with his grenade, and Jedi Skywalker is very close to dead here, and he's the only one here who can do an AoE to me. So as long as my own Skywalker stays standing, then they're not going to do a huge amount of damage to me or my banners. So I did manage to take out Anakin, and now we're just waiting. Eventually, Rex is going to get his big shot in, and he can just use his pseudo annihilate on General Kenobi, or potentially on Padme, depending on who I have available. And once either of those characters are out, it can turn into a pretty easy match. So up till now, I haven't had to sit down. They haven't made Skywalker sit down. He does have 2 stacks of confusion on him, though, which means that he can't counter at all, so they can hit him with impunity. He's not going to do anything, and eventually he is forced to kneel. Luckily, Rex did get his annihilate off just in time, so killed Kenobi. And now we're just hoping, please, if you're going to target any of the clones, just target one of them. So I'm only going to miss some banners on one. And I managed to kill Padme there relatively quickly, which surprised me. She's tough to take out with just clones, but she did go down, and we got 59 banners here, which is a pretty dang good score against a Padme squad.
Sometimes I amaze even myself.
That doesn't sound too hard.
Alright, so we made it through the top zone, and there's a Home 1 fleet in the back with Millennium Falcon, which, for how strong this defense was, I was surprised that my opponent had put one of the lesser fleets in the back, but it is what it is. It is a really fast Biston, and now we need to claw our way through Malak. I didn't really see a way I could beat that team and still one-shot the First Order team above, especially with Hux there. So I decided that I would try to take out Bastila first and just sacrifice the 10 banners. I was already going to be relying on my opponent messing up in a big way. And so I was like, well, what's 10 banners? If I'm not getting full cleared anyways, then I'll still win. And at this point, I'm not going to get top 10 regardless of if I win, because my banners have been so bad. My scores have been so bad lately, going full defense. So now we're just going to speed everything up, because Malik proceeds to just slaughter this team, and there's really not much I can do about that. So we're trying to take Malik out, and it's not happening. We're just going at super speed, and we lose. So fun times. I did eventually then switch to Rogue One, and Rogue One's goal here is just to take him down to 50%, or maybe to kill him. That would be great. But if we can take him down to 50% health, then that's wonderful. We need to get a few stuns off, which Jyn did not get very many stuns. I need to put some kind of potency on her or something to make that work. But really the key here is you want to have Cassian, because he rolls his grenades to him and does all his debuffs, and one of those debuffs is healing immunity. So one thing I tried this time, and it didn't really work that well, was Jyn kept feeding turn meter to Cassian, and I think I just haven't practiced it enough for it to really be super effective. But one way or another, we're just trying to do damage. And here for a little bit, I thought I had him down to pretty low health. I thought maybe we'd be able to actually kill him off, and in the end, like he just regained too much health. And in the end, finally, I just decided, like, okay, maybe I do one more shot to him. And I was actually thinking I should probably just hit him one time, let those exposes do a small amount of damage right before he can actually counter, but I didn't manage that, so I had to send in a fourth team with Maul and Savage and Thrawn, and just have Savage finish Malik off. So 30 banners, 4 teams, great.
You know, sometimes I amaze even myself.
That doesn't sound too hard.
So now we've got this last team, and I've fought harder First Order teams, frankly, with my trio. My Sith trio is not super strong. It's gear 12 plus 5 on Nihilus and on Traya, Relic 1 on Scion, and then I decided to throw Watt in here with Stormtrooper Han, because I had those 2 characters left, and so I put the taunting tech onto Han because he regenerates his own protection. He does a lot of cool stuff, and I figured I could get some good banners here. And now, I mean, maybe I should have put the taunting tech onto Scion. I don't really know. That's probably what I would have done if I didn't have Stormtrooper Han just available. And Han works great against this team anyways. There's only that one AoE from the original Kylo, and it's otherwise the rest of my team's going to probably be pretty safe. I put isolate onto original Kylo so that he's not feeding a ton of turn meter to his squad, and every time he does his AoE. And otherwise, now we just need to eventually, we're going to annihilate someone. And I hit Executioner there with Nihilus just to debuff him. I didn't want him to have advantage, and I think that's pretty valid. And really, you know, once we get one annihilate off, then we're probably just going to wait for another one, because my damage per second is not great with this team. And so the only real threat here is Kylo Ren unmasked, and by real threat I mean he's the one who could eventually stall me out entirely. So now that I got rid of him, I could eventually just send in all of my various B and C and D level teams and slowly whittle this team away. I guess original Kylo would also pose a little bit of threat in that regard as well. But you see, I'm hitting Executioner, and I think that was a mistake. I realized that halfway through this fight that probably I should just be hitting First Order Officer, and I realized it halfway through this video that I should be speeding everything up, because this battle is pretty bland. We're just waiting for executes to do things and to slowly whittle guys away. And I used Annihilate on Executioner. I didn't want him to ramp up his damage to the point where he could one-shot one of my characters. And maybe that was foolish of me. I don't know. Really, one thing I realized too is I put the tech onto Nihilus to give him a ton of turn meter, but then I never killed Hux until toward the end, and Hux was probably preventing a ton of turn meter gain from Nihilus the whole time. So clearly a little bit inexperienced here against First Order, but that's how it goes. I faced them a lot with Jedi Training Ray, but with Hux, it's a whole new thing. So now we just have original Kylo here. There's not much we can really do to regain any of these banners, other than hope that Watt can get the protection up on these guys, but I couldn't get it up fast enough to be able to realistically help Traya or Nihilus actually regain all their stuff, so I had to settle for those banners. And now I got another full clear with my crazy defenses in place, but now we need to take out ships. I do have my own negotiator available here, even though one reason I put my negotiator on defense last time was because General Kenobi, if you remember, I keep reminding you guys, but if you remember, he doesn't have mods, so that means that my negotiator is slower, and therefore I thought maybe it would throw my opponent off in my most recent match. No idea if it did. It just he one-shot it. Decided though my opponent did always put home one on defense here, and that was probably going to be just fine using my own negotiator. Trying to target down Biston as I usually do. And now keep in mind this Biston though is pretty quick. He's what, 153 speed, 253, something like that. My own Biston, just for comparison's sake, my own Biston's U-Wing is pretty strong at 151 speed, and so it's pretty quick. Unfortunately here, home one is just about to die. I didn't kill Biston fast enough just because he's got a little more gear than I'm used to having to take off, but eventually my AoE did kill him, and then Biggs was able to be targeted off as well. And now the question is, what ship do I take in? Am I going to be able to take out the Falcon in one salvo here? Or most likely what I decided was home one was almost going to take a turn. They were going to get reserves, so I would take out the reserves and play the longer game and get Clone Sergeant in. I did take an undersized squad here just to get those extra banners, and now, we're hoping maybe I can kill the Falcon before another reserve comes in. Not the case. Ghost says, hey, F you and all of your protection banners. We don't want those here. We don't serve your kind. And so that was generous of him. Or her, I guess, since it's Hera piloting. But now we need to take out the Ghost, and so probably should have done the protection up from Clone Sergeant. That was a mistake. Probably should have healed using Plo, but ended up with 61 banners and pretty inefficient clear once again. So I really need to work on my efficiency. I need to figure something out for my offense. I also just don't have a very strong defense because I'm missing mods on key teams on defense, so that's unfortunate. I did manage to get all of the undersize wins. I got another couple feats as well that you can't see here, but that was cool, I guess. And here's the screen before I went to bed, and not a great score. I needed my opponent to fail massively. When I woke up, I saw that one of my zones was not cleared. I thought, oh yes, I've done it again. My opponent failed to kill one of my teams. That wasn't the case, actually. My Jedi Training Ray was left, and they needed a 55 to tie against me. So pretty inefficient of them. They did end up killing Ray, however, in one shot, and they got 56 and ended up beating me, ending my win streak. So unfortunate for me, and really I only have myself to blame.
Sometimes I amaze even myself.
That doesn't sound too hard.
So I'll show you guys my defenses. Looks like my opponent tripped up on my modless Darth Revan squad, which is great. They probably saw the lack of mods and tried something fancy. It didn't work. or maybe they just got stuck on Malak or something. I hope that they were miserable doing it, and they full cleared they one shot all my other teams. So that means that I regained a ton of banners back from them. They were pretty massively inefficient, but just not inefficient enough. So unfortunate, my result once again. But as I said, it's my fault. I was the one to blame for not putting mods on my characters in the first place. I probably could have been cleaner there. It is really easy to second guess all of my different attacks that I made throughout the thing, where I maybe could have picked up a banner or two extra or done better. I've decided not to do that. Unfortunate that I can't get the full the season sweep and win all of my matches, but I'll be back next season. Hopefully we can do something with my crazy new defense, and hopefully I can find a way to be a little more efficient. So anyways, I think that's where I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for watching, and remember that in all things, Xaereth prevails, especially when it comes to not putting mods on key characters right before Grand Arena lock.